Hello and welcome back. I'm recording this not live. I don't have time to stream this week, but I wanted to still react because a new Dr. Daff video dropped of me today. I know, so exciting. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot. I forgot about this one. But before we get into that, I have to show you that this video is sponsored by my new pants. Look how cute they are. I'm very excited about them. This is 12-year-old Kyla's dream coming true, okay? She always wanted to be a alt-goth baddie. I don't know if they're me. I don't know if I can pull them off. And then I paired them with this little red shirt. It's not bad so far. Getting to the videos. When I flew to Dr. Daff's show, I always tell them, since they're paying for my flights and stay, I'll do whatever shows they need me to. They may as well get content out of me and make the money because they're paying for my shit. They booked me on in the morning, show up, and I did the Atheist vs. Christians. That one you saw, I didn't cover in depth. I actually covered Casey's response to it. This is the one I was the least interested in being on because obviously I have a pretty heterodox view of Christianity to a lot of more culturally conservative Christians, which seem to be dominating the media space for Christianity. And I'm not a spiritual leader. If you're interested in like my reasons why I'm cautious about when I talk about my faith or theology, it's because I'm not a pastor, I'm not a bishop, I'm not a father, I'm not a spiritual leader in any like spiritually ordained way. And I actually take spiritual ordination seriously. And while I'm doing my best to be honest in my faith walk, if I end up being completely wrong, because a lot of the things that I believe aren't common in North American Protestant land, I would hate to convince others of my beliefs and it be incorrect in a spiritual way. So that's why I don't cover it a lot. So anyways, I go to Dr. Daff's show. I do Atheist vs. Christian. 8 a.m. I show up. I need you to understand, okay, this doesn't happen quickly sometimes. I usually wake up like an hour and a half before, and then I needed 30 minutes to travel to go from my hotel to the spot, and I want to be like 10 minutes early. So I'm up at like 6. I do my first show at 8. It goes till about 10, and then I have my show, 1 Liberal versus 20 Conservatives. That goes from I think 11:30 till 1:30 or so, and then I have another delay, and then I film this show. So by this episode happening, I'm tired. I've been talking all day. I'm exhausted. I've had 2 outfit changes. I've posed for photos, 2. I completely forgot that this happened. So when it came out and I got a text about it, I was like, oh yeah. And as a result, I have no idea. I don't remember what prompts I went to. I obviously did a prompt. I'm assuming I think I only did 1 because I'd already talked so much that day. I don't know. I have no idea what's about to happen and what I'm about to say and what arguments I'm going to make. We're all about to go on a journey together where we discover my content together, including me. I'll be seeing it for the first time. I'm so glad looking at this panel. A lot of the ladies I already know. I recognize Naima and Zena. Over here was Bella Rose. This is Cece. It's crazy. I remember walking out of my 1 Liberal versus 20 Conservatives and seeing Naima, and Naima looks at me, and I've never met Naima before, but we've been like in the same social spaces, right? So like we've probably heard of each other. And she sees me and she goes, I know you. And I go, I know you. And then afterwards, we all got drinks at the hotel. So
it's giving the world a needed reminder that America is the leading global superpower or something.
Why didn't China invade Taiwan while Biden was in power? If we're so weak. Okay, that's the one I'm there for. We have discovered it. I'm in prompt 1. How exciting.
Are you suggesting that I should understand the reasons behind every single movement of other countries? Transgenderism is a mental disorder and should be treated, not affirmed.
Can I ask what the treatment you think is?
My suggestion would be a lot more therapy. Abortion is the murder of a human being.
Once someone is born, if they no longer have the capacity for consciousness, their will and the fate of their existence goes to the hands of whoever is legally trusted.
The American homelessness and poverty problem is actually an illegal immigration problem.
What we're mostly talking about with homelessness. Oh my God. Apparently I went up twice. Who knew? Surprise, surprise. I actually went up for 2 prompts. Hopefully that's it. Imagine I go up for a 3rd prompt. That would be crazy. I'm sure if I've done 2, I feel like I'm capped. And I know, I shouldn't say this. I wasn't called for the one-on-one. I'd remember that, right? Who are chronically homeless. And the reason why people are typically chronically homeless is typically they have had usually
insane amounts of trauma.
The way I look at this is the amount of resources going to illegal immigration that could be diverted to helping homeless Americans today. Voting should be a privilege, not a right.
If the laws affect you and the policies and legislation
That's a crazy prompt.
that is passed will affect you as an adult in this country, you should have the right to vote.
So that was great. Hopefully the discussion has been really exciting for you, but I know that you've talked to 20 different women now. I would love for you to select one person to have this conversation with.
I'm pretty sure there's not 20 of us. I'm pretty sure I remember the producer being like, yeah, there's not 20 of you, which is why we got to go up for multiple prompts.
Welcome to the Dr. Daff Show. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Daff, and today we're having a conversation with one conservative and 20 liberal women. Miriam chose her prompts on her own, and she's going to be talking with these ladies. I would love for you to introduce your first prompt.
Absolutely. My first claim is that President Trump is giving the world a needed reminder that America is the leading global superpower.
Okay. Because, you know, the world was like, I mean, the leading world superpower is definitely like Madagascar. It's such a crazy prompt.
Anyone who wants to have this conversation, come on down.
It's me. Oh, those nylons. I gotta say, these nylons.
Okay. Anyone who wants to have this conversation, come on down.
I am serving. I just love these little stockings. Also, this burnt orange, the women who can pull off that color of burnt orange, incredible. Apparently this lady, I didn't know her, but she's apparently like an OG Jubilee debater. Like she's been on Jubilee a ton. Yeah, I really, really liked her. She is a bombshell. And this is actually the girl who is also, she had been at the Atheist First Christians. And this is the one that Casey said that she enjoyed talking to the most. So it was super great meeting Zena. She is fantastic. She's such a good debater.
Hi, ladies. I'm Marion.
Hello. Hi, I'm Angie.
Hi, I'm Sierra.
Kyla.
I'm Zena.
All right. So it's exactly as I wrote it. You know, I just think that the world has been laughing at the United States for quite a while now. And it's really nice to have a real man back in office who's not afraid to ruffle a few feathers to remind people that we are the most powerful nation in the world. And the world needs to be reminded of that. Go ahead, Kyla.
When did anyone forget?
When did they forget? Probably when they were laughing at our president bumbling up and down the stairs and falling asleep during debates, like 3 to 5 years
Not like
ago.
the president now who's bumbling upstairs and struggling to remember calling Gavin Newsom the president of America.
Ooh, Drew.
Sure, Trump is not a perfect person, but we have to.
Sure, Biden is not a perfect person. Consistency, gone. It took 10, 15 seconds for all consistency to be out the window. The world forgot we were a military power and stopped respecting us because Biden was bumbling. Okay, well, Trump is bumbling. Okay, well, he's not a perfect person, but at least he's a real man. Okay, so so all you're telling me right now is him being a bumbling idiot has nothing to do with it. We don't care about that, actually. That's what we're saying, is that being a bumbling idiot doesn't matter to your argument. So great.
Can we all just acknowledge how badly Biden did during the final debate, that was just the final moment that people realized he was no longer mentally capable of leading the country, and that's why Kamala had to step in?
Does that make anyone forget that America has the most powerful, most funded military on the planet? Because I feel like it doesn't make anyone forget that.
I think it does. I think if you...
Well, actually, I think it does make everyone forget that. My source, I didn't like Biden. That's the argument. Like beginning to end, her argument is, I don't like Biden. I thought he was a little fopsy. He was a little limp-wristed man. And I like Trump. That's the beginning and end of her argument.
Who are watching the leader of the country be basically incapacitated on the global stage, it gives you more than enough reason to question whether or not we will actually retaliate in the, instance of an attack or something.
Why didn't China invade Taiwan while Biden was in power? If we're so weak and they were not sure of our power, they're clearly interested in taking a large portion of the ocean there. They're clearly interested in taking Taiwan in the way that they've taken Hong Kong. So why didn't they do that?
Why did they not?
She doesn't know anything about Taiwan. She doesn't know anything about Taiwan.
Why didn't they do it?
Yeah, I would argue.
Are you suggesting that I should understand the movement of the reasons behind every single movement of other countries?
I'm trying to get you to square the consistency, right? If it's the case that China dominantly is holding back from Taiwan because of deterrence of American military power, which is a known reality,
sure.
This is something talked about, and they didn't invade Taiwan despite the growing need for solar power, microchips, and the dominance of microchips, particularly during AI, which started under Biden, I would say the strongest incentive to invade Taiwan would probably be, well, if Joe Biden was so underassuming, if America was so laughed at. If I were China, that would probably be the time that I would do it, right?
Okay, sure. Maybe they could have during that season, but that does not. You're creating a false identity of understanding everything that was going on in China at the time. You're suggesting that because they had an opportunity to do it during Biden, that they would have.
Well, I'm saying that they definitely didn't, because the American military, nobody has ever forgotten that America is the number one global superpower. It has the largest economy. It has the largest military that is most funded. Nobody's forgotten about this. This is why Mark Carney talked about.
I think if you look and just watch.
But what do you think that Trump has actually done in his second term that has actually reminded people, like world, that we are the global superpower? What has he actually done?
Major dictators in two different countries in the last
let's get it straight
6 months.
So you said that the reason that Trump needs to remind the world what America is, again, a oil company with a military, is because of the fact that Biden couldn't speak. That's the reason why we needed to bomb children.
Well, it's not just because Biden couldn't speak.
Okay,
I'm saying that the United States has been used and abused by other countries. We have been made fun of by other countries. Well, just look at China and the reason that Trump had to tariff them, right? We have been systematically...
We've been tariffing China for years. It's not new. He just got way more aggressive with it, which was stupid.
Which the Supreme Court actually rolled back a lot of the tariffs that he instigated because they were.
That's not Trump. My claim is about Trump.
Right.
My claim is about what Trump.
So once again, to clarify your claim, you said that America is being laughed at, right?
Yes.
And you specifically
was not anymore.
Specifically because of Biden and his inability to speak, right? And therefore, we need to again bomb children in Iran. I don't know, like.
So did we actually bomb children in Iran? Because from what I understand. No, I understand. So the school.
Yes, we absolutely did. 175.
So again, the school was actually close to a nuclear base that we did bomb, but
not a nuclear base, just a military base.
Israel and the United States did not. Israel and the United States did not take ownership of that particular bombing. They took.
We have no. It was a Tomahawk that hit it. It was us. We know this now.
We literally have. Your administration, whom you support, has put out a statement that said, per our new intelligence, that we actually did bomb a school. And not only did they do it once, they did it twice. But this is giving Darvo to me, because the prompt, as far as I was aware of, was Donald Trump is reminding the world that we are the global superpower. Yeah. Why are we talking about Biden? I want to know specifically what this man has done to the global economy. I want to know in terms of NATO and foreign relations. Yep. I want to know in terms of how he's affected fuel and transport. I want to know how I'm not even going to give you. I just want to know.
How much do you want to know?
Talking about what Biden did, and we can talk about the prompt, because we have 20 minutes, and we're not about to sit up here and deflect and talk about Biden. You're stating this claim about Trump, so respectfully, can you please let us know?
To the prompt, stating that Trump is giving people a reminder that we are a world superpower. So I will answer that. So when I look at our foreign relations right now, the number one thing that I was happy about was us removing federal aid from other countries that have been ripping us off. Let's be honest.
I forgot this. USAID. 700,000 kids are dead, by the way. USAID. That's reminding the world that we're a big, strong man by dooming children to death. Good one.
We are
Christian, by the way.
Pouring money into.
You mean Israel?
I'm
the
not
country that we constantly fund, like whatever that they need to do, right? We understand that like America's military has become a supplementary power to Israel. So if you want to talk about federal aid and our foreign policy, your biggest concern should be us constantly funding and backing that country.
Well, I disagree. I think Israel is actually how do I say this? It's a beneficial ally for us. When we look at where financial aid is going and we see things like Israel, I don't have a problem with funding Israel. I'm actually not against that, because
but does have an issue funding other countries. This is the crazy shit. I'm like, you can't do both. You can't be like, no malaria treatments for the children of Africa, but bombs for Israel. Yeah. It's like, what? I swear. And again, Christian, by the way. Oh, what is it? Matthew 9:11. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they are children of God.
Need someone in that region to care about American interests.
He's destabilizing our interests. He's destabilizing our interests. We are looking at a de-dollarization, right? People don't want to have our dollar.
But that did not start.
No, it did not start.
Look at the other countries.
You're correct.
Yes, it did.
No. Actually, no. Let me tell you something. As a history teacher, you're correct. That did not start. BRICS was already in existence. But do you think so? Here's the thing. Why would we then strategically put ourselves in a position to empower that movement, to isolate from allies,
The movement away from the US dollar did not start before Trump. There has been talks generally about it, like how competing, like China and oppositional countries have wanted to remove the USD as the primary global currency. And to back up, if you're not aware at all, right now, the US dollar is the main global currency. So if you've got a UN, right? Let's use a dollar amount. I can say, okay, if you got a peso, right? One of the things that Mexican banks will do is they will have American dollars within their bank because they hedge their own currency against US dollar, because the US dollar is strong and stable. This started in World War II, essentially. I won't get into all the details, but America did some niggly shit and ended up being the US currency when everyone was down in the ground. And this is what led to part of the golden era for America. It's why America was thriving so much after World War II. Not only did we benefit from manufacturing arms for both sides for a long time and join the war late, but also we put ourselves in a position where our currency became the world currency. There has been talks about cryptocurrency or other types of currencies or gold backing, like people going back to gold backing to replace the US dollar as a common hedge currency. But it's not been seriously talked about because the US dollar is so strong and so stable, nothing replaces it. Crypto is way too unstable. Crypto goes up and down. Its value skyrockets and then crashes, which you don't want for hedging. Part of the value of gold, which was previously our currencies were gold backed, which means that we were hedging against gold. We had a certain amount of gold in our banks to hedge our dollar against. And the reason we did that is because gold held its value so well. It was a very stable and high value currency, right? Now we've moved to USD. There's been talk about going to crypto. There's been talk about moving to like other types of like currencies because dominantly this started when Trump came into power over the tariffs, because people began selling off US treasuries, which is basically like owning a portion of US debt, which is very bad. Okay. We want people to want to buy our debt. And so when people start selling off US treasuries, it impacts our dollar significantly. I won't get into all the details about why. Okay. This is not for this video, but this started under Trump, the actual devaluing at a global level and a question of whether the US dollar was going to remain as a stable form of currency to hedge your own country's currency against began to be under question with the tariffs as people increasingly stopped investing into American economics. There was a cooling of foreign investment into the American economy, and people were now selling off some of their US treasuries.
We literally are the sole...
Which particular allies are you upset that we are?
No, thank you. And I don't want to be disrespectful, but I do want to finish my thought because I want to give you an opportunity to respond. We are the sole reason that the Strait of Hormuz is closed. That's 20% of the world's oil supply, right? Now, Iran is not the American military, clearly, although they were not prepared. American Israel were not prepared. That dome, done. They were not prepared, right, for the attack. They're also not prepared for troops on the ground, and they're ready and ready per what their prime minister said. But what I want to know is, historically, what they do have is the ability to cut off. Why do I need to bomb you when I can just cut off your supply? And not only have they cut off our supply, but they've cut off 20% of the global supply for the rest of the world.
Why did she say no to the currency thing and then talk about this? Okay.
You think our allies are impressed by that? I don't think that's so. So,
am I able to respond? Because,
absolutely.
And the reason that I was cutting you off, again, when I was responding to the previous question that you asked, this young lady did jump in the middle of my response to that, right? So what I'm not going to do, and I'll tell everyone here, I'm not going to talk over you. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to do that. It's just not in my nature. I'm not interested in it, okay?
The prophecy was foretold, and it did not come to fruition.
So if you feel that you would rather speak, then let me finish. I'll just let you do that. All right. So in regards to specifically the Strait of Hormuz, right?
This is, by the way, why I never insist that I won't interrupt people, because we all going to interrupt each other all the time, because good conversations flowing back and forth interrupt each other sometimes. Because as you'll know, as a chronic yapper who's watching myself yap and then yapping about it, I yap, which means you should cut me off at points. In fact, my editor's job is to basically cut me off. Interruptions are super valuable. They become invaluable when you interrupt before a person can communicate an idea. But once the idea has been communicated, you should interrupt them at that point to move the conversation along. Which is why I hate when people insist on like no interruptions. It's just like so middle school.
I say it. Thank you. I said remove like a drink because I need one. In regards to the Strait, you actually made the point that I'm trying to make. You said we are the reason that it is shut off, right? That is what I'm saying, that Trump is reminding people of our power, of our ability to...
Oh, no. First of all, we are the reason, like indirectly, obviously, because we bombed Iran and then Iran shut down the Strait of Hormuz, but it's Iran that's keeping it closed. But also, saying that's a good thing is crazy. Also, all of these faces are so good. Chelsea's face right here is so good.
To control the rest of the world if we feel we need to.
So Miriam,
all it takes from us
are we controlling if he just...
This is my autistic girl face when I'm trying not to say anything. But I have many thoughts. But I know the camera's on me, so I'm trying so hard not to let my face say everything that's in my head.
And ask NATO, who he previously denigrated and belittled.
Me and Zena just made eye contact, by the way, and both cringed.
And condescended our allies, and now he's going back and asking them
Not at this girl, at the Marianne statement.
for help. So is it a good thing or no? Because it doesn't seem
That's
like
how negotiations work, though.
no, that's bad strategic and lack of policy. And for the sake of our survival, Democrat, Republican, like as American citizens, I'm going to call it out and push back because it's dangerous. It's dangerous domestically.
What is dangerous?
Brinkism.
Okay, explain. Go ahead. It's
Brinkism is his policy, right? So
Ooh, Brinkism.
most diplomats, especially after World War II, were like,
It's actually Brinksmanship. I was very tired. It's not Brinkism. It's Brinksmanship or Brinkmanship. Okay, either or. You can add an S or not. Nick and I had a fight about it the other day. I'm talking about Brinksmanship.
Brinkism.
Okay, explain. Go ahead. It's
Brinkism is his policy, right? So most diplomats, especially after World War II, were like, hey, wars suck. They're bad for economies, kills lots of people, especially young people.
Are they bad for economies?
Yes, they're.
Chelsea's face is so good. Are they bad for economies? Yeah, wars are expensive. What do you think destroyed Britain as an empire? 100 years of war. Wars are exceptionally expensive. They're not good for countries. Most great empires fell because of the cost and spreading of war. Like, yeah, war not good, actually, on any metric.
Absolutely. Well, hold on. Yes, they are unequivocally destructive for economies. The Dow, it's no longer over 50K, Pam Bondi, right? It's not. I think it was at 45 last
But it
time.
also reached the highest levels that we've ever seen it.
It's
So
also starting to
shouldn't we
crash.
give that.
Also, just so it's clear that it reached the highest levels, the Dow has always yearly reached the new highest levels. As long as our economy continues to grow, the Dow will reach new record levels. So when people are like, oh, the stock market's at a record high, the Dow's at a record high, the last time it made a record was like yesterday. Like, that's not meaningful at all because money has just over time inflated, and healthy economies maintain a small level of inflation. That's why 100 years ago, a burger was like 10 cents, probably not even, and now it's like $6. Now, we have too much inflation right now, but that's actually a healthy growth of an economy that over time things cost more, as long as wages in that work in that economy keep up with the inflation. So wages need to inflate as well. So what you would pay somebody $7 per hour for, 14 years ago, you now have to pay them like $20 an hour. And that's a healthy economy for some inflation. We're in a state of too much inflation, though, to be clear.
Acknowledgement where it's due.
No,
we can't
no.
take one and ignore the other.
We can't, because we have studied this historically, economically. Wars are bad for economies. They are always bad for economies.
Do you know how much the war is costing a day?
I'm not aware.
$1 billion a day.
$1 billion.
Approximately
Okay.
$1 billion a day. And we're just looking at like how much it would take to, like, for example, house people and
Me and Zena work off of each other so well, at least in this prompt. Like, I was not, I don't remember, but her jumping in, how much has the war cost, was such a good jump in. It was a very well timed. She's really talented actually at jumping in. She's just a really talented debater. I think she's probably one of the best left-leaning debaters, young left-leaning debaters on the internet right now.
Provide food and shelter for people. When we look at how much this is racking up over the span of weeks, so many of these problems could have been resolved. But instead, we are bombing other countries, and this is not. In fact, what it's doing is raising gas prices for average Americans. So once again, we're not.
If we're going to talk about gas, let's be fair and honest about the fact that he also dropped the gas to the lowest we've seen it in probably over a decade, right?
From what source?
My life. Are you kidding me? New York
life is a singular source of a nationwide statement that is false.
New York City's gas was down to $2.84 up until about 3 weeks ago, and many other places. Now I know you guys are here in California.
Take one on things that didn't age well. I think gas is at an all-time. I think we're over $100 a barrel right now. Let's see here very quickly. Cost per barrel of oil. Let's see what it's at today. 106 for crude. No, 118 for Brent crude. Ooh, not good. 118 is a lot. Whereas, like, I think a year ago, I think it's hovering around like 60 cents or something. Because I remember when we invaded Venezuela, I remember having a debate. Cost of crude is in the 60 cents range. Because one of the reasons why we weren't going and taking Venezuelan oil, not that we should, but one of the reasons why the American oil and gas companies didn't want the Venezuelan oil is because to reap profit, gas needs to be at about $80 a barrel, and it was at about 63 to 65 cents at the time when we invaded Venezuela. So that will just show you how much it's grown, because I remember researching this and debating it for a Venezuela debate. So yeah, Not good. Very stinky, actually. Very bad.
California. Under this California, I won't call it a tyrannical government, but under these Democrats here in California who like to
Bro, move. If you are a conservative and you live in California, move. If it will just make you hate your government so much to call them tyrants, move.
use their people for their political gain. So I see that you're not receiving those benefits, but across America, we know that gas has been under $3 a gallon up until the last 3 weeks.
I'll just grant you this. The issue is, the reason in part why is because Jerome Powell is managing the Federal Reserve, right? Which is most economic benefits of any presidency can dominantly be dumped to the Federal Reserve. Trump's kind of magical because he did all the illegal unconstitutional tariffs, which destroyed our economy. But sure, oil was low, but oil was low because there was peace. We had good trade negotiations. Jerome Powell was managing it well. And how is he reacting to Jerome Powell? What thanks has Jerome Powell gotten? Subpoenas, despite him being his own choice, right? So going back to the prompt, the world needed a reminder. I don't know what to tell you. Everyone has known that America is the hegemon. Everyone has known this.
Everyone has known America as a cash cow, as a teat to suckle from. Quite literally.
No.
We are robbed by everyone else. China, as I was saying earlier.
How are we robbed if we have the largest economy in the world by an additional 12 trillion over the second largest? How is it even slightly possible? In fact, if you look at Canada and America, Canada has consistently dealt with bad trade deals because we rely on them so heavily until finally Mark Carney said, you know, it's not good for all of us middle powers to just constantly take the worst deal and undercut one another. We should stop doing this. Canadians have suffered as a result of American hegemony. So no, America's not been feeding the world by any means. They've been military funding the world, and that's probably the only thing.
America has given the world the most federal aid of any country. That is a fact.
That's true. That's good. Who are the biggest philanthropists on the planet? The richest people, because they can afford to give the most. The issue is most of these people don't actually give a large portion of their income. But like, this is why, like, when people like fight over billionaires, people will be like, actually billionaires are the biggest philanthropists, which is true in like a total sum. Yeah, billionaires also give more than almost everyone else because I don't have millions of dollars to give. I don't have $1 million to live. So yes, right? But it's just like the fact that we're giving so much money, that we are the #1 spender on aid, is evidence to our success, because countries do not give to such an extent that it is to their own harm. Countries will never destroy, especially democracies, will never destroy their own economy purely out of empathy for other countries. We just won't do it, right? If we would do it, then every single NATO country would have just ended the Ukraine war, because we would have just given most of our arms. They would have obliterated Russia. Things would be done. But we're never going to risk not having our own arms, because countries will never, ever, ever give at the cost of themselves. They will only give when they have excess, which America has lots of. Fat calf.
Because they're the superpower.
Stabilize the world more than any other country in the history of Earth.
Sure, but the actual point is they can do that more than anyone else.
Precisely my point. Thank you. Thank you, my love. I'm making that point. That
America's always been a superpower.
Yes, we're in agreement.
So nobody needs a reminder if everyone knew the whole time that America's a superpower. It sounds like we've got a war hawk.
Founded on my claim, because you guys keep just giving me your facts that you're interested in, debating, and that's fine.
America's always been a superpower.
How about this, right? I think Kyla is right. According to, the way that we
I'm so spicy. I was so tired. I don't know what the fuck I was saying.
Wealth in this country and in the world, America is by far the wealthiest nation, the most powerful nation. But we also track, though, that when we look at where that wealth is, it's not in the hands of Americans. It's exceedingly being put into the hands of the ultra wealthy, 1% of the population. So what we can all attest to this, right? As the years go by, the gap between the majority, 99% of like Americans, and the 1% continues to increase because of the fact.
Come back to Trump.
Yes, we're getting back to it. Okay? We're getting back to it, right? What we're seeing here is that, without a doubt, this country has power. That power is concentrated within 1% of the population, but it has power, and nothing that you have given us today has
I've barely been able to speak with this group of ladies, and I think you're all very versed in what you believe, and that's fine, but you haven't even understood my reasons for feeling what I'm saying. Yeah, so as I was saying, my problem...
Because he invaded Venezuela. Although we have interrupted a lot. I wouldn't... Like, this is the problem with, like, the 4v1 is just, like, the 4 are going to talk a lot. But this is the case. Like, even when I did the 4v1, the 4 ended up talking a lot. I did, too. It's just, like, there's 4 people, so, yeah, they're going to talk a lot.
And what I believe is that a lot of...
That's why I think the one person, it's really good if they do quick, pithy questions and backs and being like, you're wrong here, you're wrong here, you're wrong here, because they're not going to ever get sufficient time to get all of their thoughts out because they're dealing with 4 different people.
not a lot of, the vast majority of other countries in the world have been using and abusing the United States for quite some time. When we look at the tariffs that Trump imposed on China, I thought that was fantastic because China has been ripping off American patents for decades. And you as liberals, you should care about that because the way that they're able to rip off these patents is by using child labor, right? They can make these products way more cheaply in China and then sell them right back to the United States with no qualms. I love that President Trump is stopping that and is forcing them to think about, or not think about, but change the way that they're doing business with the United States. Hold on.
IP theft has stopped under Trump? Is that true? IP theft has stopped under Trump?
No, of course it's not going to stop instantly, Kyla. Be realistic.
Oh, damn, that was good.
Also
stopped under Trump? Is that true? IP theft has stopped under Trump?
No, of course it's not going to stop instantly, Kyla. Be realistic and honest. But the reality of China being aware that we're not going to turn around and take these problems over and over, right? The fact that we not took our chance, but we made it known that we will take Greenland if we need to. I love that. Yeah, babe.
Also, crazy that they stopped it there. We definitely talked a lot longer than that, I think. I don't even know why I'm giving you BTS. I'm probably just having mirage memories of these things. I don't even remember being on that prompt or the second prompt that I'm apparently a part of too.
My next prompt is that transgenderism is a mental disorder and should be treated, not affirmed. Hi, ladies. I'm Marian.
My name is Rhonda Bankston.
I'm Chelsea Gons.
I'm Bella.
I'm Liz. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.
You too.
All right, so just to summarize my claim or why I feel this way, I look at transgenderism and I see that a human with a perfectly functioning physical body is telling doctors that something is happening in their mind to make them believe something about themselves that physically we can see is just not true. So I do believe that it is a mental disorder similar to schizophrenia or anorexia and that it should be treated and not affirmed.
Can I ask what the treatment you think is?
Absolutely. I think way more therapy, right? We should not be pushing children into gender-affirming care such as, any type of hormone replacement or anything of that nature. Therapy, honestly...
Ah, yes, transgender people famous for not getting therapy. Certainly not enough therapy. Why didn't we just try therapy first? Why did any medical practitioner think of this? It's genius.
Would be a lot more therapy. I would honestly say you go push with therapy as much as possible.
And you talk about it for so long though. Like you're still living every single day with gender dysphoria. And I'm just wondering what is the treatment for it besides just talking about it?
Well, if we take the instance of anorexia or bulimia, they go to rehab. So perhaps there should be rehab centers where these individuals are directly treated and given a lot more direct and everyday attention.
We had them. They're called conversion therapy centers. They were not popular. Let's just say maybe abuse.
But I do believe that if we stopped running to medication very quickly, we would give a lot of these, especially children, we would give them time to come out of this belief system and see that they actually do not want to go through physical surgery.
I agree with you. So a man thinketh, so is he. I'm a registered...
Oh my God, there's two full psyops. There's two women on the liberal side that are just conservatives. Like this chick, bless, she's so cute. Nobody had too many beef with her. She's just full of love and she doesn't know where she's at. I agree. Trans kids shouldn't transition. Why are you on this side? I think you're sitting on the wrong side, ma'am. I think you don't know what this prompt is about.
There's 33 years. I've seen all ages of transgenderism and clients feeling as small as 3 years old telling me that a little girl says, Ms. Rhonda, I want to be a boy. I feel that I'm a boy. But everything about a person, every situation that you meet, every person you meet makes you the way you are and how you deal with
I'm just going to skip Rhonda. God, very cute, but also she just blabs and it's all conservative talking about it. Which is what Chelsea's like, the fuck?
And nothing is...
This up right here.
Well, I'm going to staunchly disagree because I actually think that transgenderism is just a natural state of being in the same way that I think being gay and being straight is a natural state of being. And it just so happens that transgender people exist in every part of the world. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of the Middle East or if you're in the United States of America or if you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Transgenderism has always existed and will continue to persist. And treating them like they're not human beings just because of their genitalia is a serious issue.
Okay.
And I'm sorry. Earlier you said
that.
Earlier.
I did not suggest being
Earlier you suggested that you wouldn't interrupt us and talk over us, and I would like to remind you of that. So thank you for coming back. The point is that in the middle of the Pacific Islands, before any Western civilization had ever met any of these people, there was a group of transgenders called Fa'afine. And
Fa'afine. I actually, funnily enough, the guy who did the preeminent research on the Fa'afine people of the Samoan Islands went to the same university I did. And after he traveled and published his research and was popping off, he came back to my university and gave a little talk. Yeah. I don't remember his name, but he was a nice guy. Like a unmemorable 5'9" dude, but very nice guy.
just accepted as a normal part of society, just as transgender people are accepted as a normal part of society in many parts of Southeast Asia.
In fact, in the Fa'afafine villages, the Fa'afafine, who is like the third gender, which is almost exclusively trans women, as what we would call trans women, typically a man will have a wife, and if he's a man of like high societal regard in this village, he'll have a Fa'afafine, and the Fa'afafine helps the wife with kind of all the house duties and helps take care of the kids. Yeah, it's a really, really interesting population that just kind of shows like when you have human civilizations that kind of develop separate of the hegemon, you get really distinct cultural differences that really speak to the way in which human brains and our culture is so much more fluid than I think a lot of us want to take for granted, because we see the Western kind of Greco dominance across the world and assume that that's what's most inerrant because it's most common and it was most successful in like a evolutionary way, like successful in like spread its limbs and loins the most.
The fact of the matter is that being transgender is not a Western way of being. It is actually a human way of being. And I think the real problem that we have here is that people like you don't want to treat them as human beings, and they just want to be treated like human beings. You don't need to know their genitalia to treat them with kindness. You don't need to know what's...
I love Rhonda's face. She's like...
between their legs or what's underneath their jeans in order for you to treat them with kindness and human dignity. And I think that you, considering that you think every one of them is a mental health issue, is seriously inflammatory, considering they are people, and they are people who exist everywhere on the planet.
Okay, one, sure, they exist everywhere on the planet. Two, when we look at, let's take the Amish population here in the United States, they have extremely, extremely low instances of transgenderism.
And they have high instances of child sexual abuse. Move on.
I'm not going to move on because you just told me not to cut you off, but but of course it's fine. So my point would be that I never said to treat anyone ill.
This, by the way, this is why you never, ever get mad at somebody for interrupting you, especially if you interrupt, which I interrupt all the time, which is why I would never get mad at somebody for interrupting. I understand what Chelsea did, but it does create an easy attack, like an easy optic attack, because you're going to necessarily interrupt them. Because to be clear, I think it's good debate skill to interrupt quickly when they're circle talking, or if they're about to list 4 points. It's really pithy that if they list their first point and you have an immediate, like 2 to 3 word rebuttal, quickly throw it in there. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in the 4 other points that they're about to make.
Right? I think we can rewind the tapes and see that I never once suggested that. I actually think that it's worse to take a child who is a child. I have a child. Do you have a child?
I have 2 children.
Okay, so my child.
She was really hoping that she didn't have children. She's really hoping she said no. She's like, do you have a child? With the assumption that it was no, but Chelsea's a mom of 2.
She's a little girl. She's 10 years old. She loves sports and she loves doing her makeup and hair. I am deeply uncomfortable with the idea that if a child comes up to someone saying, today I feel like a boy. Well, what does that even mean? What does that mean?
I can actually answer.
What does it mean to feel like something that you're not? Okay. When we talk about whether...
Oh, I really liked when Bella talked.
Not people are treated with dignity. I agree with you. I do not think that it's okay to be harmful or disrespectful to people because you don't understand them. I think that the left does that far more to the right than vice versa, actually. I think that if you were to peel back the layers of actual pain that people go through, taking a few more years to speak to someone about whether or not they actually need this physical change, rather than jumping them right into something that is irreversible and, let's be clear, in many instances causes long-term regret, right? Definitely, hold on, without a doubt, it causes long-term pain and suffering to the physical body. These people have to be medicated forever. There's no going back.
Diabetics.
Diabetes is not a choice. You don't choose. You don't go into the doctor's office and say,
I mean, neither is transgenderism.
You know what, today I feel like eating way too much sugar.
Transgenderism is not a choice.
But even by Marion's argument, she says that it's a mental illness. Nobody chooses to have a mental illness. If Marion thinks that transgenderism is a mental illness, that's how she's described it, like anorexia, like something to be treated, which I agree that I agree that gender dysphoria is an illness that needs to be treated. It's just the treatment is transition, right? You cannot say that and then say diabetes isn't a choice. Neither is transgenderism, according to your own terms. According to your own terms, as Jay Dyer would say, according to your own terms.
Having gender dysphoria is not a choice. And to answer the question of like why, my personal idea is I think we push gender stereotypes way too hard. So like if a little girl feels like a boy, it's because she's not identifying with what a girl is. If a boy is feeling like a girl, it's because he's not identifying with what they're being told a boy is.
So then why do we need transgenderism? Why can't we just tell kids there's no basis for male and female? You don't need to chop off your genitalia to now be considered a boy or a girl.
With kids, I'm not going to say like, yeah, chop off your boobs, little girl. Like I'm not going to do that.
But your base does do that.
I feel like
your base in California will take a child away from their parents and take them out of a classroom and transition them in secret.
Well,
there's no way that's true. That children have been transitioned in secret? I believe that there's probably been children who are abused and they are trans children. They also have to be trans children who are taken away from their parents and then while in the foster care system later transition. But this feels like a very conservative talking point that probably has a much more realistic situation that we're talking about here.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
I grew up with gender dysphoria, and I haven't done anything. I'm not on any testosterone. I didn't do anything to my body, but I still live with this gender dysphoria. It wasn't a choice. And I honestly forgot your question a little bit. But your base, from what I've seen, like demonizes it. I was sent to conversion therapy in the woods for this, and being told I was a demon over and over and over again. Like, that's more damaging, I think, than sending kids to therapy to talk about it.
I would firmly agree that that is not okay. What happened to you is awful, and I'm sorry that happened.
But can you acknowledge that the side that you're on kind of encourages that?
I think that if we were to be having a better conversation about treatment, that would happen less often, right? But because the left has this all or nothing approach to it, if we don't completely agree with transitioning everybody, and I'm not just talking about children, if we don't completely agree with transitioning people and affirming them and
it's so frustrating with the trans topic because I actually think like Miriam is doing a decent job here. This is definitely a better prompt for her than the other one. She's definitely holding herself better here. But like, there's something true here that it's like, yeah, if the left and right did have better conversations about transgenderism, yes, we would serve transgender people better. And does the transgender movement have things that I personally even would say I don't think are empirically borne out, right? I'm not for neopronouns at all. Like, full hard. Not supportive of it. If you want to do it like personally on your own, like private time, whatever, I don't give a fuck what you do. Like, wear a toupee for all I care, okay? Go off, Trump, okay? Wear your toupee. However, she's right in that, like, the issue is that both sides have straw-manned each other and somewhat genuinely believe that it is all or nothing. Like, the conservative base, the all or nothing, the Republican base, I should say, the all or nothing is no transitioning, only therapy. That's all you're allowed. Maybe when you're an adult, maybe on your own dime. That's it. That's the only care that's offered, right? On the left, there's actually this issue that there's just a really broad spectrum of advocacy. You've got like the moderate left that is going to say things like, well, probably not on kids, definitely adults for transitioning, and we definitely need way more like research into it. You've got people like that are more progressive like me who would say, I'm open to kids and adults transitioning, and I think that if it is established as medical practice, it should be medically delivered. It is a medical practice, so it should be covered by insurance. It should have all the medical things. I'm for universal healthcare, obviously, but because you guys don't have universal healthcare because of all sorts of things, I'm wondering. I would say there's lots of progressives that are in my camp that are for, transing the teens and the adults as empiricism supports. And also, I think that the transgender population is woefully underserved by lack of research, lack of unbiased quality medical research. Part of that is because the population is very small, so it's just hard to get a large amount of data sets. And part of that is because it's such a politicized people group that there's studies that are extremely pro-trans that do bad research, and there are studies that are extremely anti-trans that do bad research. And that gets mixed in the middle of the few people doing genuinely good quality research. And it's extremely, extremely frustrating because there are absolutely things that the left has asserted is just known that is definitely not known as much as it should be. For example, we don't actually know almost anything about non-binary people. There is not a ton of research on them because they are a subgroup of a subgroup. Like, it's a small population, trans, and the non-binary are even smaller. And they just get thrown into all the studies on trans, but that might actually be two distinct things going on with different medical needs and different mental health needs, and we're treating them all the same, which is creating really it's like nobody wants to talk about this topic well. And trans people are sick of talking about the topic too, because it's just been run into the ground. As you guys all saw, 1 liberal versus 20 conservatives was just 5 prompts where every single time, no matter what the prompt was, people found a way to bring up trans people.
Saying their chosen pronouns, then we are labeled as bigots. We're labeled as hateful. You decided that I was hateful the moment that you sat down.
You literally just said that you wouldn't call them what they want to be called. I do find that to be hateful. I think a lot of people find that to be hateful.
I think it's more hateful to affirm someone's mental delusion. I do feel that way.
And that's the unkindness that we're talking about. Thank you for illustrating it.
And first, I want to acknowledge I'm so sorry you went
Damn, get her, Chelsea.
through that as a child.
We're here. It's okay.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions. No one is pro-surgery for children. What is being done is that children, basically it's respecting.
By children, I think she means under 12, because people are definitely pro-surgery for teens. There just is those camps.
People cannot make the permanent decision until they're 18. Now, that's why they get hormone suppression therapy. So that makes it, if they choose to go through the surgeries at 18, it is much simpler.
See, this is what I mean. The right has a very all or nothing. More therapy, no transitioning, maybe when you're 18 with $1. The left actually has a pretty broad representation here. We've got Rhonda, who's not even pro-trans at all. We've got this chick who's definitely not pro-transitioning in any surgery way. Anyone under the age of 18. And I suspect Chelsea would be for even transitioning under the age of 18, including surgery, would be my assumption. And I don't know where Bella falls.
They have not gone through puberty. So it is actually in alignment that, no, you can't make that decision under 18. And if you were to go through puberty, that's a form of having made that decision. There is a minuscule percent of the population that's transgender. And as someone, personally who's like super girly, born girl, has been like the most girly girl my whole life, I'm going to have to step back and say that when someone says this is my identity, and as my personal experience in life cannot identify with it, I'm going to show them respect that they have a way of navigating the world that I personally cannot understand.
Can I make a
May I finish my sentence, please? Thank you. Now I just lost my train of thought. But I cannot understand. So I'm going to step back and say they are living an experience that they can understand significantly better than I can.
See, that point where Marion wanted to jump in, by the way, was a really good place to jump in, because this chick has now just said the same thing, and it seemed like she was going on to say the same thing.
So if they say, this isn't fired when they're getting...
It can't
actually go through therapy. They can't just walk in, go to the school nurse, and get it.
So why can't a 6-year-old get a tattoo?
They absolutely couldn't. They're too young. 6-year-olds aren't going
too
on.
young?
They're too young because, well, 6-year-old can't get transgender surgery, and a 6-year-old can't go on.
Choose to start hormone blockers, right? So that is
at 6. What hormones are you blocking at 6? Marion, do you not know how bodies work? Somebody needs to walk Marion through the process of change called puberty and when it starts.
Longer term. Well, an adult can choose to start that for them in certain states.
No, not at 6.
Hormone blockers start before puberty, shortly before puberty, not years before puberty.
Okay, so let's turn it into a 10-year-old. Can a 10-year-old get a tattoo?
I don't think a tattoo is going to solve any issues. Like if you're saying it's a mental issue, it's a mental disorder, then there has to be some sort of treatment.
Okay.
So and getting a tattoo isn't treating anything.
Okay, what is the accepted treatment of transgender?
Good job, Belle. Yes, banger.
In the United States of America.
Affirmation. And there has to be some sort of treatment.
Okay.
So and getting a tattoo isn't treating anything.
Okay, what is the accepted treatment of transgenderism in the United States of America?
Affirmation.
Oh, that's the one. What do you know?
And that's what we're saying. I'm saying that's horrible.
People who study this professionally, who this is what they actually work in, this is what they do for a living. They've studied it for decades. They've studied it way longer than you. They know all of the statistics. They know all of the data because they've been collecting it. But you know more than them. That's what I'm hearing right here. Is that you know better than they do.
I would love to actually answer that. What I believe is that their studies and their prompting towards the world, as far as scientifically, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. You guys can chuckle now. But
she's a flat earther, actually.
I do believe that when you follow the money and we look at the long-term results of telling children and telling people that...
Well, she was when I debated her like a while ago. I don't know if she is now. Oh, yeah, because I debated her on liberal Christians versus conservative Christians as well. And she was the flat earther. But I don't know if she is now. She might have abandoned that.
Is normal. I have to ask deeper questions because as you see studies, like I used to be a huge vegan and believe it or not, I was a huge vegan. My daughter still to this day doesn't eat meat because I had her and I was a vegan at the time. When I looked into where those veganism studies were coming from and I followed the money back, you see that they're actually coming from, not big celery, but we're seeing that they're coming from, companies that also have investment in lab-grown meat and other, Beyond Meat, et cetera. So they have a vested...
Yes, companies that support veganism also have interest in supporting research on veganism because nobody else cares to research it. Oh, it's so dumb. If this is funded by a group that's also interested in it, it necessarily is a bunk study. No, it's a flag to look at the methodology and see if it's a bunk study. Oh my gosh. People just don't know how science works at all. They'll be like, this Academy of Gender Studies did a study on gender. Pretty suspicious here. Why would these people that are particularly interested in gender studies do a study on gender? Follow the money. Very suspicious. It's so stupid. Does she not realize that a lot of the data Republicans use for their argumentation for policy come from Republican think tanks? Yes, the people who are interested in the topics tend to fund them. And now the issue is, has the funding been utilized in such a way that it is warping the quality of methodological data collection or analysis? That's all that matters.
Interest in the long-term results of these studies being accepted. So hold on,
these studies have been taking place long before any of these big pharma companies were the players in which you think they are. The point of the matter is that you have a belief system and they have empirical data, and you are defying empirical scientific data that has been collected.
Well, if you want to talk about scientific data, let's talk about the fact that 24%
more scientists work than you do in understanding this. You're saying, oh well, they're wrong and I'm right. And
24% of transgender people also have autism. Why don't we ever speak about that? They are 6 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than the standard person. So when I say that this is a mental situation, hear me when I say this. My point is very simply, it is dangerous to affirm something that is only happening in someone's mind. When we look at previous mind-only situations, we're talking about schizophrenia, bulimia, anorexia.
This is what I wish I was here for. Dementia. We almost exclusively affirm people in dementia. Typically when people are in dementia and they start having like misremembrances, they don't quite know where they are, correcting them or trying to reorient them, trying to remind them what year they're in or who they are, what's going on all the time can be exceptionally distressing for the individual. It's almost always better in the case of a demented patient to just mostly affirm it and utilize the way that they're viewing the world to help guide them to things that are healthy and that you know that their previous self would want, right?
Etc. We cannot affirm them because we know that it is not actually happening to the physical body. I'm not going to set a table for my schizophrenic friend's best friend at the table. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell them, hey, if you're seeing people that are not there, you should get help. But with
also, typically, when you are initially engaging with somebody with a schizophrenic episode who is unawares or doesn't agree that they are not self-aware yet of their own psychosis, but they believe that it is real and they're tapping into something magical, which is most people's belief system when they're having their first episode. It is often very useful to just work within their delusions to get them into a hospital, to get them evaluated, because the thing that gets them out of the mindset that they are not having whatever this reality is the medication. And the issue is for trans people, if medication alone was sufficient to make their sense of body and their gender and their sex to feel aligned, we would be doing that. But it isn't working. In the way that with schizophrenia, medication does work. It brings them back into reality and the hallucinations or delusions go away.
Transgenderism, because you make a lot more money if you put a child on hormone blockers immediately. You make a lot more money if they need to get surgery down the line. You make a boatload of money because they're consistently going to be on medication.
Wouldn't you make more money if you could just pump in really cheap depression meds or anti-psychs that already exist? Wouldn't that make you more money? If it was the case that you would make a boatload more money to just get kids onto doing surgery because surgeries are more expensive, why don't we do more surgeries for people with anorexia? Why don't we do more surgeries for people with schizophrenia? Oh, I know. Because none of those treatments lead to good outcomes for the individual, and none of those treatments have been found to actually be successful in leading to better living for the patient. That's why.
For the rest of their lives. You make more money because this is now a cash cow for the medical industry, and that's why I do believe that it is more harmful to these people to affirm them than it is to ask them to seek more treatment.
But again, as a registered nurse, I worked with...
I'm skipping Rhonda. Nope.
Say as a
good. This isn't a knock on anyone who did the abortion debate. I'm not saying that they aren't good. I'm saying I don't want to hear it. And also, you guys should watch it on Dr. Daff's episode. I'm not there. Not relevant to me. I don't want to cover abortion right now.
Is that still stand? Everyone has think that is correct, and I thank you ladies for your time. My next claim is that the American homelessness and poverty problem is actually an illegal immigration problem.
I remember when I saw this on they send you all of her prompts or whatever ahead of time to mark which prompts you're most interested in. I remember I saw that and I was like, how? What? I've just never heard this. I've literally never heard this argument being made at all. I don't think it's at all established that there is a rampant homelessness problem specifically connected to illegal immigrants in any way. I don't believe any of the housing that goes to homeless people is just being converted and only used for illegal immigrants. I have no idea. This is so out of left field for me.
Hello, ladies. My name is Marian.
I'm Zena again.
Hi, Marian. I'm Francis.
Kyla. Naima.
All right. So I'm a real estate agent. I've been doing this for 8 years. I look at the numbers and the realities of homes that are available in the nation versus the amount of people versus, the cost of rent skyrocketing throughout the cities, major cities primarily. And when I look at all of that, I understand that the estimated 15 million immigrants, illegal immigrants that are in this country are taking away homes from the only 770 or so homeless people. 770,000 homeless people.
So wait, 770,000 homeless people in the entire country?
In the entire country.
That's wrong. I don't know.
I'm going to check that actually right now. How many homeless people in the U.S.? 770,000. Dang. That's so few. I'm so glad I was I don't know. Because I didn't know.
It's not wrong. I just double checked it before I walked in here. I promise.
What's your source?
Babe, I just looked it up. Look, if I have every source, I would do that, but I don't have it every right now.
So I worked as a registered addictions counselor.
So I just bypassed it because when people throw stats at me and I don't know if they're correct or not, especially she said it so confidently, the moment somebody says a number to me that's super confident, and I'm like, they probably researched it. It seems really weird. I would have expected to be way lower, but say Levy, no reason to fight her over it because I don't know there's no reason to fight because I don't know the alternative number. And she was correct here. It was 771,000.
My husband grew up in a homeless shelter, and I spent most of my life working with homeless and drug-addicted populations. It sounds like you're basically saying this is a housing issue, right? There's just not enough places to put them. But most people who work in homeless shelters and whatnot will tell you it's not fundamentally a housing issue. What it actually is a mental health crisis and a lack of support issue, right? So one of the issues that we have with chronically homeless individuals is that they will get placed into a home. Typically, if you become homeless, with the resources that we have available, you will likely get homed within 3 months. That's the typical average in America.
In what country? I mean, sorry, what city?
That's the average. I don't know in which specific. This is an American average. Okay. Yeah, it's a national average. What we're mostly talking about with homelessness is people who are chronically homeless. And the reason why people are typically chronically homeless is typically they have had usually insane amounts of trauma. They usually have significant and major mental illness issues. They've often, as a result of addiction and substance, been wrapped up in the criminal system that penalizes them for addiction, which is useless and a pipeline to homelessness. So it's not so much that we can't place them into rooms. It's that when they get into a hotel, they get kicked out very quickly because they often damage the hotel because they need resources for their trauma. And we don't have sufficient staff. We don't have sufficient funding. And frankly, we don't have sufficient will to actually help these individuals. I don't know why we'd blame this on illegal immigrants at all.
Okay, can I respond? Okay, so you're correct, right? If we're looking at the reasons that someone might end up homeless in the first place or why someone might come back to homelessness down the line. Absolutely, of course, mental health has a huge role in that. That's probably the number one reason, right? And then drug use, et cetera. However, the way I look at this is the amount of resources.
Good response so far from her.
Is going to illegal immigration that could be diverted to helping homeless Americans today.
Oh God, I forgot. Oh, it's such a dumb. Oh, I hate this argument. The money we spend here could go there. Okay. Trump wants $400 million for his house. Rather than caring at all about other disenfranchised people, let's look at the people who have lots. Let's maybe not spend $1 billion a day in Iran. Hear me out. Crazy hot take. Rather than blaming illegal immigrants, just another disenfranchised group of people, which, just so it's clear, I'm not a super big fan of illegal immigrants. I'm not here for like open borders and stuff. I think you should come the legal way as much as possible. I also think that there needs to be a better integrated immigration system and H-1B visas that are more attuned to labor work, because almost all H-1 visas are for educated work. So the immigration system should also be vastly improved. You guys should have a lot more temporary seasonal worker options. Canada has a much more integrated, people can come up and work for 6 months and then go back home and move back and forth. And it works out really well for Mexican people who would like to work in Canada and then go home during the off season. Yeah, there's just the immigration system's fucked, but I don't know why I'm saying all this. Blaming all this on immigrants is just such a classic conservative cop-out, other than being why would we worry about the money we're spending there when we're spending money billions of dollars on private prisons that aren't rehabilitating our criminals? What? Let's just do that. Feels like a much closer population to observe. Illegal immigrants, criminals. Maybe figure out rehab systems better so that people aren't reoffending, so that you don't have a prison system where the entire monetary incentive is to get people in and out of prison as quickly as possible, to get as many paychecks as quickly as possible, to pay them as poorly, to give them as little offerings and supports as possible in your prison, to rake in as much cash as you possibly can. Just a private prison system is fucking evil. Let's talk about that if you want to talk about helping homeless people.
So if we're talking about whether or not people need mental health resources, and we look at how much are we spending, $457 billion spent on asylum seekers, not just illegal immigration, asylum seekers in the past 15 years, I have to ask.
15 years? Also, we're not talking about illegal immigrants. Oh, asylum seekers are legal. That's legal. Now, we can all agree that a lot of them later become illegal immigrants, but it's just the money we're spending on asylum seekers is the processing system to determine whether or not they can be legitimate asylum seekers. That's a large portion of the burden of cost. It is actually maintaining the border and processing people at the border. God. Also,
a question of why
over 15 years is a really long fucking time.
Are we not more concerned with taking care of the people that need this help? Because I do believe, I agree with you, these people need more services. I just don't think that we're advocating the money in the right place.
Why would we blame immigrants when we spent $1 trillion on military industrial? We could maybe have 3 less Tomahawks and probably hire, I don't even know how much a Tomahawk costs. It's probably $500,000 at least, maybe more than $1 million. We could probably hire 80 social workers at least for that. So I don't know why we would be man, there's a lot of homeless people that need resources. You know who's at fault? immigrants.
Well, again,
I love blaming immigrants.
Let's be clear. I'm never talking about legal immigrants. My daughter is half Haitian. I absolutely, with every bit of my being, love legal immigrants. They're half of my family, quite literally. I think that it is disrespectful to legal immigrants to allow people to cut in line and receive resources that legal immigrants do not qualify for primarily, usually.
Can I jump in here? I think that as we're talking about, I think we're almost conflating two issues because as I've studied the housing crisis in this country, my dad is a lawyer. This is primarily what he does for work. One of the main issues is not the amount of housing. We actually have enough houses in this country to house everyone. It's the lack of affordable housing. And the reason behind that lack of affordable housing is partially because of private equity, partially because of the 2008 recession, but almost entirely because of the 1%. So when I hear people blaming illegal immigrants, it feels like you're shifting the blame because they don't own housing, right? They don't have control over the supply of housing. However, you know who has control. As a real estate agent, you know who has control.
And that's why I will disagree with you.
It's their fault.
Sure. So one, all of those things are correct, right? You're not making stuff up. Obviously, we know one of the huge things that I'm excited about that Trump is suggesting is putting a stop to institutions buying single-family homes.
It's one of the only things that Trump has said that I agree with.
All right, see, look, I know we could come to a place.
See, as long as she's not in it, we can have a good conversation.
Come back to me. Come back. So, however...
Oh, she is I forgot. The PSYOP was there's this chick in the abortion debate who just also believes abortion is bad and is just a conservative PSYOP, unironically. And everyone in the cast was like, get her out. Apparently a bunch of people talked to her afterwards as well. And she told them that she had voted for Trump. And they were like, why are you here? It was so annoying. Although conservatives will do this. There's just crazy. I'm sure lefties do this too. I just am not tipped onto it.
As a real estate agent, let me tell you my direct experience on the ground in New York City. What happens a lot of the time, especially with asylum seekers, is when they come, they will get together and they will happily rent a room in a 2, 3, 4 bedroom apartment. When that happens, the four of you over there, you can easily afford $700 each. But as a unit, a 4 bedroom that is, $2,800 is a lot more difficult for a family to afford to live in. So when we're talking about the rising costs, when we're talking about the rents and how they keep going up, the question should always come down to who's able to afford it and how.
Asylum seekers are causing a problem. By the way, legal immigrants, who she said she didn't have a problem with, because they'll settle for extremely cramped living situations in New York while they're getting their asylum processing. Huh? What?
Looking at illegal immigrants, they are going under the table. They might, they're not getting approved for these apartments, traditionally. So they're happy to pay for just a room. And I challenge you, go on Facebook Marketplace in New York City and see how many advertisements are listed in Spanish or in Russian or something, because they're specifically targeting.
Okay, so I just want to respond to that claim because I'm actually from New York City myself.
Yes, ma'am. Where?
Yes, I'm from Brooklyn Heights.
Yes, I'm from Fort Greene.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I was in Brooklyn Heights and then we moved to Fort Greene. Yes, I was right next to Bed-Stuy. Okay, so we know the same neighborhoods. My family was priced out, and we weren't priced out by immigrants, actually, legal or illegal. We were priced out by white people moving from the Midwest. Sure. It was gentrification, which again is a result of the real estate industry favoring the 1%. I don't think it's fair to blame people who do not have control of the supply and demand for housing. And to the point about New York, I personally experienced that. And I know we did not lose our home to illegal immigrants or immigrants of any kind. We lost our home to other Americans who could afford the cost of living that we couldn't. So sure. I just, again, I know it's anecdotal, but
let me be clear. You're talking about a neighborhood that has been gentrified. So when I'm talking about placing homeless people, when I'm talking about people that can barely afford a house, they're not looking in the gentrified neighborhood.
But gentrification contributes to homelessness. Our neighborhood, people who lived in our neighborhood would become homeless once it was gentrified because they could afford it and now they can't. Again, it all goes back to a lack of
That's a deeper conversation.
Not really. Typically, when people get priced out, they don't just become homeless. Almost always they move to just cheaper areas. Gentrification mostly is an issue where it's constantly pushing the lower echelons of income further and further into rough places in the city that often have worse transportation. They have higher crime. They often have less amenities accessible to them, right? And so oftentimes very poorly funded schools, if they have schools nearby at all, whether or not they have to bus in a large way. So when people get gentrified out, they don't just become homeless almost always. Sometimes they might have a stint of a week or two where they're on somebody's couch or crashing with another family or something. So they're technically homeless, but they're not on the streets homeless. But when we're talking about American homelessness on the streets, this is something that's just frank. It's not even really about affordable housing. Even if the state fully pays for the housing, and this is the instances in Canada. In Canada, we cannot keep homeless people in housing. They destroy it, and they typically won't stay because of addiction, criminological stuff. So most affordable housing, for example, has certain policies around crime and about damage to the property. Understandable, because you need to be able to reuse an apartment after one person's been there, especially if it's government subsidized. It's fair for the government to say, you don't get to just destroy the room, right? This happens a lot. A lot of people do a lot of crime. A lot of people bringing illegal substances in, right? And so People get kicked out of affordable housing, typically is what happens, who are homeless, and then they become homeless on the street again and are going into shelters. So typically when you're looking at like a chronically homeless individual, my uncle-in-law has really bad meth addiction. He's also very severely schizophrenic and is very resistant to treatment and was deeply enabled by his mother for like basically his entire life. And now he's like a senior man. When we put him into affordable housing, he destroys it, gets kicked out, won't even stay. Half the time he doesn't even come home. So they evict him because he's never there, and then they rent it to somebody else who needs it, because if you're never there, we're going to give it to somebody who needs it, right? And when we get him into like group home situations, he typically gets kicked out through violence. And this is very common. It's exceptionally common. I've worked in these homes that are housing these people that are seeing them cycle in and out because of violence and addiction, or them going on a binge for 4 to 5 days and disappearing, maybe not coming back. Maybe when they do come back, they bring back people that aren't allowed to be on the property, because oftentimes in affordable housing care situations, there will be people strictly banned from the property because they're not good people, like they're violent offenders and stuff like that. So it's really not an affordable housing. Like we don't have enough affordable housing. Maybe in California, I could be wrong about California, but generally when I look into the literature, it's almost exclusively that we do not have the supports necessary to get these people healthy and supported and well. And we don't really know what to do with them. They won't stay in group homes. They often become violent if they are tried to be restrained or forced to stay in group homes. But if you put them into affordable housing, they often significantly worsen in their health, right? They stop eating, they start self-caring, they destroy the property, they get kicked out, and they're homeless again. So we, like my uncle-in-law is a good example of like, we do not have answers for these people. Like we really, really don't. We don't have a comfortable answer, because the answer that probably makes the most sense is putting him into an asylum that can guarantee his medication, can guarantee his care, but then you're necessarily restricting his freedoms and rights because he's mentally ill, which is not a fun thing to think about or do.
Because I am one of the huge reasons that I no longer vote Democrat in New York City is because Democrat laws are horrible for tenants. They do not help down the line, and they cause this inflation and this gentrification that we're seeing. That said, when we look, again, I'm talking about people who are not supposed to be here. And that's the number one thing that I think everyone needs to acknowledge.
And stop talking about asylum seekers.
They are literally not supposed to be in the country, right? So this is my opinion, any homes that they are taking is taking a house or...
But you talked about asylum seekers. You said they posted in Russian and Mexican. They're asylum seekers, most likely, I'm assuming. Or they're people traveling and overstaying their visas. Those are probably actually the most likely cause of what she's talking about, is people who travel, like the Russians, and then just overstay their visitor visa.
Apartment away from someone that might be able to use it.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that like I just want to put out there that like correlation is not causation, and it does take a lot of bravery to kind of like string these things together and like come against 4 of us and like have these conversations. So I really appreciate that you did that, because when I read your prompt, I had no idea that like people were conflating these things. So with that being said, I do think that we built a system of housing that is motivated by the desire to make profit, right? So when we are holding up a capitalistic system, we are going to favor tenants that can pay this price. And I wish I knew you were from New York, because I kind of came with like anecdotal information from Los Angeles. I am the very proud daughter of somebody who was not supposed to be here, from Michigan, and like those winters were really tough to brace, and you're like, well, okay, like let's come to California, because
I wouldn't be breaking the law.
Okay, well, so all right, that's good.
I'll be fair here.
I appreciate come to California, because
I wouldn't be breaking the law.
Okay, well, so all right, that's good.
I'll be fair here.
I appreciate the back and forth, but the thing is that like we as humans, we decide what is law and what isn't. So people native to the Americans, they have been moving across borders for generations and for millennia.
I never said I'm against immigration. No, specifically speaking about illegal immigration.
I understand, and I don't think that you are against immigration, because you clearly just said that before. But what I am saying, as part of the diaspora, which I am a part of, as a part of the diaspora, like the poverty that these families went through to make the decision that you're going to leave your family, you're going to leave your community, you're going to leave everything that you know to go in search of the pursuit of the American dream.
Sweet baby girl, very well intended, not saying a whole lot. I'm just gonna it's muted.
Say something, but I don't want.
And then not only that is that when we are
I'm so sorry. I want to say something, but I don't want you to feel like you're being cut off.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm listening.
So my frustration with that, this is the example that I use. Everyone has a good reason for doing something. Everyone has a good reason for committing a crime, right? Drug dealers are dealing drugs just to give their family a better life. Just because you have a valid reason to steal doesn't mean you're allowed to steal. And that's my only frustration with this consistent conversation. It's like, I get it. Life is hard in other places. I'm not disagreeing with that. I will never downplay that. But that does not mean that people should be allowed to disrespect our borders and disrespect the process and cut in line over people that are doing it the right way.
Well, maybe if you were in favor of giving those countries aid, they wouldn't feel the need to come here illegally.
We give the most aid out of the entire world.
Well, you just said you wanted us not to do that.
Sorry, just to kind of have a timeout. And
Get her, Naima.
Like call in to like call back to the conversation that we're having. I understand that you feel that like the border is a matter of respect and that that there's certain values that you hold to it. And again, like I admire that. I admire you having your values and your beliefs. But at the same time, where I'm balancing it off is that America spent so much money and currently is spending money in destabilizing regions in Central, South America, and the Middle East, right? So it comes to a point where, to give you an example about Chile, right? Like in Salvador Pinochet, when we put our hands in because like we don't like the leadership that they have and our partners that are committed, we went.
I remember being like, wow, I really wanted her to go. She was so ready to go. She had this notebook with notes. She's going to go. And then she just like went on some random shit.
And that we have certain beliefs, but then that's what we're doing in Venezuela. That's what we're doing for time, felon. And I'm sorry that you're rolling your eyes.
No, I am, because it has to come back to that, right? It has to come back to those things. And
Yeah,
this isn't the prompt about.
This is the type of lefty, by the way, that conservatives love to debate because it's just like it makes conservative arguments look so strong.
That like we can have an outside discussion about those, really ridiculous felonies.
Right.
I'm happy to do that.
I think we should you're talking about disrespecting a process that has been well underfunded for good reason to create and explode this immigration problem that could be solved by expediting these processes, by funneling money, like the billions of dollars we have in this country that keeps it running, into this process that is necessary, not only for immigrants who are, again, coming from, like you just said, destabilized countries, countries destabilized by America, but also for the country that is benefiting from the labor that immigrants, documented or not, that they do for this country. I think that the process itself is disrespectful. All the jobs that citizens who have, the basic necessities in life don't want to do.
Okay,
manual
let's
labor,
talk about that, right? Because you guys love to look at illegal migrants and look at them as indentured servitude. You look at them as less than.
So we're talking
decided that this is the life that they are regulated to. This is what.
Hold on.
We haven't decided that.
No one decided that. We're observing a trend that capitalism creates. Right? Capitalism. Here's the process. We go into other countries. We bomb them. Iran, Cuba, Venezuela. Take your pick. We destabilize the areas, and people have nowhere to go. So they go to the place where labor. They're begging for it. Right? They're begging for even scraps. No one's saying that's a good thing. I would love us to funnel monies back into these communities, but for the baseline, the solution to this problem is not sending them back to the countries that we are exploding. That's the whole issue. If you want to talk about, these issues,
your suggestion
it would be
that the
giving
only
people, securing people with basic respect, basic human, necessities. The money that we have that's going into Meta AI project, $80 billion. Money that's going into I'm giving you explanations.
You guys are giving me these monologues, and it's like you're just not even.
I think the problem is when you're giving points that you can't respond to, you get irritated.
The American homelessness and poverty problem is actually an illegal immigration problem. So for me, what I look at, and again, I don't discredit the movement of the U.S. and other places and our involvement in their potential, discourse that's happening there. I don't disagree with that. But I also will acknowledge that we are not the only reason that these places are suffering and struggling. It is usually some type of very corrupt government. We are not the only reason that Mexico is a hot mess. We are not the only reason that Cuba is a hot mess. We're not the only reason that Haiti is a hot mess, okay? And the fact is, the United States, we, the taxpayers, we, the citizens, cannot continue to allow people to come here and use our resources just because what's going on in their country is difficult. I'm not saying that we should shut down all immigration. I never will say that. But I think that when we're looking at people completely disrespecting the law, people coming in.
I really wish in this prompt we hadn't just like run off into being like American interventionism is bad, and it's like, well, yeah, that's bad. It's just like not like what it's trying to do is saying we've created this situation in which all these illegal immigrants feel the need and pressure to come here in the first place, and it's like I partially agree with that, partially reject that. It has nothing to do with homelessness. And the tag is, if we want to deal with homelessness and poverty, we got to get rid of the illegals. The illegals are the problem. It's saying homelessness is actually an illegal immigrant problem, which is just like, again, not been tied together, other than her saying the money we spend on illegals, we should spend on homeless people. And it's like, you can just make that argument with infinite things. It's a non-argument. It's a stupid argument.
And using up resources, taking away homes from people that do need it, taking away jobs from people that would do it. And you can say that, no one wants to pick, whatever you think
is not homegrown when it is.
So I think why we're in a hot mess is because your prompt kind of bakes three separate, very large, very complicated topics into one. One of them is homelessness, which is a lot more about trauma, lack of resources, and frankly, we don't know what to do with addiction and like deep set early childhood trauma. We don't know what to do with it and the people who have homelessness as a sequelae of that.
And mental health issues.
Second issue is rent affordability and pricing of homes. That is a zoning issue. That is a private equity issue. That is a multifaceted issue that has nothing to do with homeless people.
You can't say nothing. You can't. There's a
The housing market is
as
not
somebody who's
dictated by
worked
homelessness.
There's a lot of people that are home, but again, you're
No,
now
you're wrong. You're wrong.
Every single homeless person is homeless because they're mentally unwell. Is
No,
what you're saying.
I already told you that almost every single person that gets moved out of their home because of things like rent pricing typically will find new housing within 3 months.
But that
we're
does not
talking about
change
homelessness.
the fact that during that season they are counted as part of the homeless population.
But we have.
So when I gave you homeless numbers, I'm counting anyone that's homeless for any reason.
Okay.
And I'm suggesting that if we stopped giving all of this funding,
I know you want to bake it all together. Yeah, can I get the three things that you're baking together so that the audience can understand? So one of them
understand. They're not silly.
One of them is homelessness and the complicated sequelae of how to deal with that issue. The second one is rent pricing and affordable housing. The third problem is just immigration generally, asylum seeking, and people who like do not go into court after they've overstayed their asylum, which is the most common form of like illegal immigrant, right? These are three very separate topics that need to be tackled, and you're baking them all together to say homelessness, immigrant problem, which is unsophisticated, kind of incoherent, and not what we're talking about. So do you want to talk about homelessness? Do you want to talk about immigrants? Or do you want to talk about the housing? Because we can't do all three all the time, all at once.
I am very comfortable doing all three all the time, all at once, because as I said from the beginning, when I was speaking to you originally, I do believe that if we had less illegal immigration, we would have more funding, we would have more resources to put towards those other issues.
What percentage
I don't know why that's not clocking to you, as the kids would say, but this is
Let me explain to you why. Because
the claim that I'm making.
reality
we're
doesn't.
spending $457 billion on illegal immigrants over the course of 15
and we're spending
years.
$2 billion
on
missile. It doesn't matter.
New York City just spent $3.7 billion
of homeless people in California were born in California. Do you know what percentage of homeless people in California were born in California? Do you know the answer?
I do not know the
60%. Do you know what the other 40% is?
Illegal immigrants.
They're from red states that ship over to California because they have better things. It's not illegal immigrants. The idea that illegal immigrants make up a significant proportion of homelessness.
Have you not walked around? Are you not looking at the people?
I work with these populations.
Have you not walked on Skid Row? Are you telling me that you don't see?
No, I have not walked on Skid Row,
Yes.
girl. I just really quickly.
I have, okay? Also based, yes. Homelessness, not about illegal. Also crazy that she's now being like, the other 40% of people who are homeless in California are illegal immigrants. So are the illegal immigrants homeless or are they taking our houses? Or both, I guess? But none of your claim here has been illegal immigrants are homeless. And that's the problem. It's been that illegal immigrants are taking money that we could be otherwise using to solve our homelessness problem. That's the argument. So I don't know why she's been like, yeah, the other 40%, they're actually illegal immigrants. Bitch, no. What? No. They're from red states. They're from out of state. They're all American citizens by and large. Is there like probably a few illegal immigrants who've been here for a long time who end up just being chronically homeless themselves and drug addicted and blah, 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 blah? Probably. Yeah, probably there are a few of them. But that's obviously not the bulk of who we're talking about, which is again why these two ideas being crossed is asinine to me. It just like the argument doesn't argument for me. Okay.
I feel like this conversation is implying a scarcity mindset about housing. You have said it in past prompts, we are the richest nation in the world, we are the most powerful nation in the world. There is genuinely no reason why housing is such a unaffordable commodity in this country. I believe housing is a human right, as I think most of us would agree, housing is a
The reason why me and Naima are like a little bit in tension is Naima really does think it's a housing issue. And as somebody who's worked extensively with the homeless populations, it is not a housing issue. Having more affordable housing would be great. That I'm not ever going to be opposed to that. More affordable housing, the better. Okay. I want maximum affordable housing, but affordable housing benefits everyone, including the homeless. But the chronic homeless issue is not going to be solved by housing alone. It is going to be solved dominantly by integrated care.
Right, we would like to end homelessness in this country. Well, would you like to end homelessness in this country?
I would like to end it, but
exactly. So if the goal, if all of our combined goal is to try and end homelessness in this country by pointing to a population that does not even have the right to vote and blaming them for controlling the quantity of affordable housing in this country, I think that's reductive to our goal of ending homelessness.
So Naima's argument here about like the illegal immigrant doesn't even have a say on this issue is a really strong argument. I think it's probably the best argument we've all that all of us have supplied, and definitely a better argument than mine.
We'll just wrap up by saying I will remind you of my initial statement, my initial statistics. 15 million illegal immigrants estimated in the country right now, only 771 or so homeless people. So when
771 is evidence that it's not a housing issue, that it is a mental health crisis issue.
I'm looking at these numbers, when I'm looking at the fact that Zoran Mandami just said that in New York City last year, we spent $3.2 billion on asylum seekers alone. That's not counting whatever, medical help and food and all of the shelter that we gave people that were not specifically counted as asylum seekers. When I'm looking at the overall process or the overall situation, numbers tell me that if we diverted these funds away from people who are not supposed to be here, I will remind you, are not supposed to be here.
The wealthiest country in the world. We can accommodate both.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that the point you made about Skid.
Oh, I hate this argument. We should just move the money there. We're always going to be spending on illegals forever. Like, some of that money is Border Patrol. Some of that money is, trying to figure out who's overstayed their visa. Like the idea that like we could just, just never have illegals again, then we'll have all that money. It's like, do you think the government wants illegals? No, we're not spending the money because we think it's awesome to spend money on illegal immigrants. We're spending the money because A, we need a number of services to find these people, to work with them, to put them through court, to vet whether or not they're an asylum seeker or not, or a refugee in some sort of way. But also on top of that, even the illegals that end up staying and shouldn't be here and are avoiding their court and are doing all of the naughty things in a nation that is civilized, we don't want to just doom them to poverty and starvation. Which is why we also help take care of them in small ways. Yes. And is that the ideal situation? No. That's why we should have more judges processing. That's why we should change asylum seeking. That's why we should update H-1Bs so that people can actually come in on temporary work visas to just do like labor services and stuff. And also, just be aware, if you are one of the best countries in the world with some of the most money, people are going to try to come here. And if they can't get here legally, some of them might even try to come through illegally. That's just the reality. You're always going to be spending on it. It's such a stupid argument. But it's literally the same as the liberals saying, well, we shouldn't spend money on military. It's like, you need to spend money on military, and you need to spend money on homeless people, and you need to spend money on illegal immigrants. Yes, we could talk about how and what should be allocated where, but it's not like we could just not allocate anything to illegals.
Is that when we look at the skin tone of people who are on the street, it's very clear who is the problem in regards to housing, presupposing that people of certain skin tones are here illegally, let alone that they are at fault for the position they're in, let alone that the fact that this country, the majority of its wealth is funneled to the top of it. Not even counting the fact that immigration that happened, that started this country, was very much done illegally and through genocide and killing and raping. So I really want to understand to you who the real problem is, especially when we know that there is billions and billions of dollars that we're willing to spend on Israel and not on the people in this country. I think that's very clear where your motivations and where your reservations lie.
My next prompt is that voting should be a privilege, not a right.
Crazy.
Hi, ladies. I'm Marian. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Tiffany.
Hi, I'm Sierra. I wanted you to be able to explain your context.
I'm Chelsea Gons. Ceci.
All right. So yeah, voting should be a privilege, not a right. So the way that...
Okay. I am not going to cover the rest because it's other people's debates, and I want you to go watch it on the Dr. Daff channel. But thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. I believe they have this final prompt. It's a good one. Frankly, it's a good one. Chelsea has some fiery moments. Ceci is a good friend of mine, and she always has the ability to get some laconic statements. So definitely go and check it out to see Ceci's. And then finally, she ends on a one-on-one debate. She picks Bella Rose, or only JS. And I believe they talk more at length about conversion therapy. So if you're interested in watching any of those, or the abortion debate where, like I said, you've got the PSYOP lady, okay? Crazy psyop goes on the third prompt. Let's see if I can find her. And of course, YouTube broke because it doesn't like full screen on Firefox.
My next prompt is that voting should be a privilege.
Right? And you're...
This lady right here, okay? Actual PSYOP. Highly recommend you go watch it. It's pretty crazy. However, that's going to be all from me. As always, if you want to support me, one of the best ways you can do so is joining my Patreon. You get early releases there. We sometimes do DBT workshops. I need to pick up on doing those again, so sorry about that. But also, as a reminder, if you support creators on Patreon, we get like 98 to 92%, depending on which kind of program we join, 98 to 92% of the income just directly into our pocket. So if you want to support small creators like myself, that is absolutely unequivocally the best way to do so. Make sure you guys check out the Dr. Daff show. I really appreciate them having me on. Make sure you bug them and ask them to have me again so you can get more incredible content like this. Upcoming later this week, I have a debate with Trent Horn on the Whatever podcast. That may be the last time I ever go on the Whatever podcast. We'll see. Nick always convinced me to go back, but I'm a little over it. Okay. After that, I have a Jubilee debate on May 13th. So that episode will probably air in like a year. It's just around it. I'm just one of the 20. It's technically one conservative versus far left. And I was like, I'm not far left. I'm a liberal. And they were like, that's fine. Conservatives can't tell the difference. And I was like, okay, socialists can. So hopefully they don't feel like I'm doing something shifty, but sure. So I'll be doing that. Then I don't really have anything That's not true. I think I have other stuff booked upcoming that you can watch out for. Oh, if you are in New York City in September, I'll be debating Pearl Davis, Just Pearly Things, on feminism. In September 18th, I will be debating The Crowd with Destiny. I don't really know. It's me versus Destiny, but there's no prompt of what we're debating. So we'll see. But I'll be in Vancouver then. So if you are from Canada, if you want to come out and see me, any of my friends and family, obviously, would love to see you there in Vancouver, in the fourth greatest city in Canada. As always, big hugs, big kisses. Think well. And I hope you have a day as wonderful as you are. And don't forget to subscribe and share this video with a friend. Anyone you think they'd love this, okay? Share it out, get my name out, get based, nuanced debate girls popular again. Popular for the first time. Take back debate girls. Take back debate girling.